Thank you, guys. It's a beautiful day in San Antonio. Bright sunshine, temperature in the 70s, but not a lot of people will be outside. 18,000 will be in this building, the SBC Center, and the television ratings in this market will go through the roof. The marquee matchup thus far in the NBA playoffs. Game 1, the Los Angeles Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs. Just a few minutes ago, the retired Admiral came into the building. Got a hug from Tim Duncan. David Robinson retiring, winning the championship last year. Shaquille O'Neal, of course, the centerpiece of Los Angeles' 3 titles over the last 5 years, with San Antonio winning the other 2. Al Michaels with Doc Rivers, Michelle Tafoya. Welcome to Game 1 of what should be a terrific series. The Lakers knocked off the Houston Rockets in 5 games. San Antonio, meanwhile, won its last 11 games of the regular season, then swept Memphis. So overall, they have won 15 straight, and they have home court advantage because they had a better record during the regular season. This should be a fabulous matchup. First things first, though, my partner, Doc Rivers. I hardly knew you. Signed to coach the Boston Celtics during the middle of the week. And on Thursday night, they took the Doc out to Fenway Park to introduce him to the Boston fans. I want you to take a look at this. That was Doc's ceremonial first pitch.
Wow.
Doc,
that's why I went back to coaching.
Don't you understand the bounce pass is a basketball play?
Well, I knew if I didn't throw a bad pitch, it wouldn't be televised.
There you go. It's right in the scene set. You'll be great. Congratulations to you. Let's talk about this series. A lot to talk about, obviously. The matchups, the glamour, and all of the rest. The champions over the last 5 years. If you had to crystallize it, though, if it's going to come down to one big thing, what would it be?
The stars. You know, we all talk about the X factor, and Peyton might be, or Ginobili, but at the end of the day, Kobe Bryant and Shaq for the Lakers playing together and dominating if they can, and Tim Duncan dominating in all the ways he does. To me, that's the X factor. Is how well their stars dominate this series.
Well, Duncan, in the 2 titles won by San Antonio, he was the MVP in the finals, and in the 3 won by LA, Shaq was the MVP in each of those. Now the Bud Light starting lineups: Devin George, Karl Malone, and Shaq up front for the Lakers. Turkoglu, Duncan, and Rasho Nesterovic up front for San Antonio. Peyton and Bryant are the Laker guards. Parker and Bowen for the Spurs. And let's check in with Michelle Tafoya. Michelle.
All right, Al, well, another key matchup in this game. Point guard, 21-year-old Tony Parker versus 35-year-old Gary Payton. Parker grew up watching Payton and says it's, quote, weird playing against him. So Popovich is going to keep a close eye on Parker in this first half. Popovich has said, quote, if Parker comes out like this is a cakewalk, I'll just do what I did in Memphis. I'll be a big sledgehammer on him at halftime. But Pop said he's confident, Al, that Parker will come out with what he calls appropriate fear.
And Parker has been hot against the Grizzlies early, and the Lakers begin with a turnover as they try to get it into O'Neal, and it's out of bounds to San Antonio.
Yeah, unlike the Houston series where you saw them double-teaming Shaquille O'Neal before the catch, you're not going to see that as much in this series. So Shaquille O'Neal will be involved in this series.
Nesterovic gets free. He's a good shooter from the outside, and it's out of bounds off Tim Duncan.
And the more he can make shots from that elbow area, the further away from the basket Shaquille O'Neal has to come. So it's a key matchup.
He's the guy they picked up when David Robinson retired. Nesterovic had been with Minnesota. Was pretty much eaten up in the middle by Shaquille O'Neal when the Lakers knocked off the Timberwolves in round 1 last year. Gary Payton taking Parker into the lane, and then a little fall away is off the front of the rim. But O'Neal gets the rebound. Bryant goes in, and the first basket of the series belongs to Kobe and the Lakers.
And that's the way they want Kobe involved in this series. With Bruce Bowen, probably one of the top 2 defenders in our league that is a non-big, they don't want him trying to score off the dribble. They want him scoring off the ball.
And that's Duncan over Malone. Peyton, who did a lot of sitting in the 4th quarter in the Houston series. To his consternation, that's out of bounds, and it's off Turkoglu. Devin George will inbound. Devin was a starter earlier in the year. Then Rick Fox came back from his broken foot, which he sustained last year in the playoffs. George lost his starting spot. But now midway through the Houston series, Jackson goes back to Devin George. Bryant comes up with it, but only 2 on the shot clock. And Duncan gets the rebound.
That's the way Tim Duncan has to dominate in this series. You know, he can't do it all scoring, so he has to do it all around.
The miss by Parker, and then O'Neal was able to tap it to Kobe Bryant. Bowen all over him, and that will be the case for the duration of this series. Malone from the corner. And the rebound to Nesterovich. 2 minutes into the game, the crowd, the noise ear-splitting in the SBC Center, which opened up last year, and they celebrated that inaugural year with a championship. Turkoglu. Bryant, who was tremendous in Game 5 against Houston, misses that one, and Duncan with the rebound. Turkoglu, and he walked with it.
I think Turkoglu wanted to take that shot. At the last minute, he saw Tim Duncan to the right of him and thought, you know, Tim Duncan is always a better option.
But it cost him on the turnover, so 2.5 minutes into the game. Each team starting out cold. The Lakers are 1 for 6. The Spurs are 1 for 4.
It reminds you of a prize fight. You know, they're sparring right now, trying to fill each other out. That's what you're going to see, Al, from Gary Payton. I think he's decided, Tony Parker, he is quicker than me. I'm more powerful. I'm going to try to score on him in the paint.
And make Parker play defense. Parker misses that one. And then Malone and Kobe are there, and Kobe's able to save it. And bring it up the court for the Lakers. Runs into Bowen. There's no foul. Work it into Malone. Over Bowen on the switch, and Turkoglu gets the rebound. Turkoglu, who was with the Kings last year, came over in that three-corner deal with Boston and Indiana in the offseason. Duncan now. And Tim Duncan ties the game.
If you give Tim Duncan that much space and time on the post, he'll score every time. And Karl Malone is a terrific defender, but that's just too much time to give the ball to Tim Duncan.
Here's Payton inside. A loose ball foul underneath on the Lakers. Foul is on O'Neal, his first.
Well, you can always tell when a foul's on Shaquille O'Neal. Just listen to the crowd. It's an easy gauge.
And he wound up in foul trouble in a couple of games in the Houston series. And then Phil Jackson had to leave him in a key situation in the second game when he had 4 fouls early in the third quarter.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see him in foul trouble in this series unless he does it on his own. You know, Yao Ming went up against Shaq, and that's very difficult. He's not going to get that here. So if he picks up early fouls, it's because he's going over back or reaching, which he shouldn't do.
Malone over Duncan. So it's been 2-2, 4-4, now 6-4, and we've already played 4.5 minutes.
I think Tim Duncan has to love right now the way the Lakers are guarding him.
Devin George reaching in.
I mean, they're not only going one-on-one, but they're staying very close to their players at home, so they're not going to give up the three. Right now, you can see they've decided that they're going to make Tim Duncan beat Karl Malone, and you give Duncan too much time. I think it's very difficult to stop him because he's so sound of a player.
Greg Popovich, who's been here the entire Duncan era with tremendous success, last year's Coach of the Year, trying to win his 3rd title in 6 seasons.
You know, he has really, you know, this franchise has always been good, but Greg Popovich takes over and takes it to another level. You know, it is a class organization all the way through, and you have Tim Duncan, who is a class player, and Pop says it's all due to Tim Duncan because he can get on him. Tim takes it, all the other players follow, and it makes it for a great situation for everybody.
And pretty much why the San Antonio Spurs can go under the radar so much. There's not a lot of friction. It seems to be almost the good ship lollipopping away.
It really is.
The embodiment of the team.
And he's missed the fundamental. He doesn't do anything exciting except for, you know, as a coach, I've always thought 32 points and 18 rebounds was pretty exciting to me, but a lot of people don't see that in him.
Last foul was on Parker, his first. gets a nice screen but can't get the shot away and then throws it away in the corner.
Well, if you're Greg Popovich, you love the Spurs defense right now. And if you're Phil Jackson, you like it also. And the reason I say that, the Spurs are always good defensively. The best in the league for the last 5 years. The Lakers this year, if they have one area of disappointment, it's been on the defensive end. So right now, Phil Jackson has to like the way his team is defending the Spurs.
And Malone got a hand.
Well, this is the reach-in out we talked about before the game. Malone knows he does not want Duncan to get it above his shoulder, so he's going to reach. Maybe the best reaching big man in our league, and that time he was caught. I guarantee you that Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, and all the Spurs alerted the referees before the game to watch Karl Malone's reaching.
Dick Cavetta, Jim Clark, and Tony Brothers are the officials today. Duncan shot only 59.8% from the free throw line this year. These two teams, if you think about it, the marquee matchup in the playoffs, these were the two worst free throw shooting teams in the NBA. I guess not surprising if you can think of O'Neal's problems, but San Antonio sort of snuck up on everybody as the Lakers turn it over and Parker goes coast to coast and scores. But now they're going to say that Duncan got his hand into the cylinder and they're going to wave off the basket.
I think it's a good call. I was very close, but I thought as the ball was going down, Tim Duncan touched the ball at the very top. So I think it was a good call, but it's very close to see. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's a good call.
It is. Ball looked like it was coming out, so the Lakers get it back. Period approaching the halfway mark and only 11 total points in the game. Bowen staying with Bryant. Kobe leaning in and trying to draw the foul. Duncan wants a walk, but it's a foul.
And Duncan's right. You know, Kobe made the fake and then took this extra step, and that is a travel. You can see it right here. That's one. He can't take another step. That's two. And he got away with it and then drew the foul.
If that's the number 8 guy on a team with a third guy off the bench, it's traveling, right?
Yes, yes. Actually, you know, it was tricky because I think the officials were tricked on that play also. I thought they thought he was going to stop. These guys are so good now at picking up when they travel, when they don't, when they carry, when they don't. They take it to the edge, and there is times, obviously, they get away with it, but it is a tough call to make.
Margin when he gets the call, and he makes both. Kobe an 85% free throw shooter during the regular season, and the Laker lead is their biggest of the game. The 21-year-old Parker will be 22 before the month is out. To Bowen. Shaq fighting for the rebound with Bowen.
And big.
And the foul is on Bowen.
Yeah, that's big because now, you know, you get Ginobili in, who obviously gives this team energy, and right now they might need Ginobili's offense, but it takes Bruce Bowen off of Kobe Bryant, and that is never a good thing if you're the Spurs.
Lakers shooting 30%, Spurs 25%. Halfway through the first quarter, Lakers by 3.
Tirico in the studio, the Taco Bell studio update. It is over in New Orleans, and the dominance of the front court early was the story. Miami did get close late, but too much of George Lynch and company. The Hornets win by 6. They will force a Game 7 on Tuesday night. The Indiana Pacers wait an 11-day layoff on the McDonald's Eastern Conference bracket between the first round and the second round. The home team has won 70 of the 85 Game 7s in NBA history. Now.
Thank you, Mike. And this one could very well go 7 as well. But what about Game 1? How important is it? This is the 10th time these teams have met in a playoff series. The Game 1 winner has won all of the series. Greg Popovich is 11-0 in playoff series after winning Game 1. And Phil Jackson with the Bulls and Lakers is an astonishing 37-0 in playoff series when he wins Game 1. When Phil loses Game 1, he's 5-4. There's Popovich, who's been perfect. Jackson, meanwhile, 42-4 overall in playoff series. Popovich has won 2 titles. Jackson seeking his 10th, which would break a tie with Red Auerbach for the most in NBA history.
You know, Al, 11-0 is pretty impressive by Popovich until you see Phil Jackson is 37-0.
Amazing. Meanwhile, Ginobili's in, Bowen's out, and there is Shaquille O'Neal, who called himself a facilitator in the Houston series. I think between the lines it meant, you know what, I'll do whatever. I'll make assists. They can double and triple me and all that. But he's not going to be a facilitator in this series, I don't think, Doc. I think he's going to score a lot more.
No, he will not be a facilitator. And the reason is, you know, again, in the Houston series, they doubled him before he caught it and when he caught it. But now they're single covering. One thing is very tough to do is front Shaquille O'Neal. And what the Lakers are doing, they know that the Spurs are going to front him. They're raising Karl Malone above the free throw line, so it's too long for Tim Duncan to come. And that's how Shaq got that first dunk.
Robert Horry, who has killed the Spurs in the past, is a member of the Rockets and the Lakers, and now wears a San Antonio uniform. Comes into the game. Meanwhile, the last foul was on Kobe Bryant, his first. Burke a little pressured by George, and Payton comes down with a rebound. Gary backs it off. Bryant. Malone. Now Kobe again, who was picked up by Ginobili.
Who is another great defender in his own right.
Play clock at 5. Shaq's going to take it in and score. So Shaquille with all 4 of his points in the last few seconds. 12-5. Los Angeles with Duncan on the bench for San Antonio.
You know, Greg Popovich expected a little bit of this early on. He said we've had so much rest that we're not in game shape, and it might take us a quarter to get it going.
Nesterovic. And they still can't get it going.
That's just the presence of Shaq. You know, Nesterovic had to fade a little bit further than he usually does because he knew that Shaq was around.
Shaquille again to Bryant. 3-pointer. Parker comes down with it. Ginobili will take the 3. Ginobili was a starter for a lot of the season. Then Popovich put him on the bench. He comes off the bench for the last half of the year and came very close to winning the 6th-man award. Little wraparound bounce pass into Malone, who gets tied up and has it taken away. Parker. A 1-on-3. And he's fouled.
Now, this is exactly the way the Spurs have to play to win this series. You know, the first 7 minutes have been a half-court game. The Lakers will win that battle all day because they're just too big. But if you turn this into a speed series, I think the San Antonio Spurs win that type of game.
Duncan came off the bench to salute the 21-year-old Parker, who grew up in France. He misses on the free throw, but they've shaved a 7-point deficit to 5. The foul was on Gary Payton. The Lakers are up by a deuce. With more than 3.5 to go in the opening period. O'Neal missing off the glass. Parker. Brown in the corner. And they've erased a 7-point deficit just like that. Devin Brown, local kid, grew up here, went to Texas, San Antonio.
Energy, pushing the ball up the floor. That's the X factor that Ginobili brings when he walks on the floor.
And for the Lakers, right now it's an X-rated factor because the Spurs are doing this with Duncan on the bench. Good ball movement. And then in and out from Parker. I see a shot like that. I think of Horry last year as a Laker almost beating San Antonio. Payton missing.
Boy, Payton's getting point-blank looks right now, and they're not falling for him.
And timeout is called by San Antonio. So Popovich puts Duncan on the bench down by 7. They quickly get 7. Brown ties the game with 2:32 to go in the first period.
The NBA playoffs on ABC, brought to you by The Day After Tomorrow. When it's all on the line, play like there's no tomorrow. And Allstate, are you in good hands?
Back in San Antonio, tied at 12, and the kid who tied it up was Devin Brown. He scored the basket that made it 12 apiece. He's a homegrown kid. I mean, as homegrown as they come. He grew up in San Antonio, attending South and San Antonio High School's West Campus, where he became the city's all-time prep scorer, 2,763 points. And he shed a few tears when his number 33 high school jersey was retired. He then went on to the University of Texas San Antonio, where he helped lead his team to the NCAA tournament in just his freshman year. Went to the tournament and then later saw his number 23 jersey retired there after becoming the school's all-time leading scorer. You know, he was known about town then, Al, but he says now people recognize him everywhere he goes. He told me it's a dream come true to be wearing the same uniform as his childhood idols George Gervin and David Robinson.
He is a man about town right now and seeking a ring, something that some of his teammates have two of, others one. And he wound up tying the game and erasing a 7-point deficit while Duncan was on the bench. Meanwhile, Ori had come into the game when it was a 5-point deficit, and Robert has made a big difference as Malone shoots over him and misses. And here comes Brown bringing the ball back up court. Duncan is free. And over Medvedenko, who has come into the game for O'Neal.
It's amazing when you watch Tim Duncan and handle the ball, catch the ball, shoot the ball. He's so sound now that it makes it almost impossible to guard him.
And Malone loses the ball out of bounds. So Duncan comes back, and the Lakers have to put O'Neal on the bench and bring Medvedenko, Fisher, and Rush into the game. Bryant and Malone remain in the lineup. So Popovich was able to erase that lead with the big man on the bench. Now he's back in while O'Neal rests. It's a 9-0 San Antonio run. Duncan, and Bryant was able to block it and take it away. Derek Fisher, starter on the Lakers championship teams. Then he lost his starting job when they signed Gary Payton. But Fisher seeing more and more action late in the season and in the playoffs against Houston.
Yeah, he came through during the playoffs. Gary Payton didn't play much in the fourth quarter. A couple of games he didn't play at all. And Derek Fisher really came through. And I thought down the stretch of that series, Phil Jackson fell upon the Gary Payton-Fisher in together combination, which I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that in this series as well.
Fisher over Parker. And the Lakers can't get anything to drop. Lakers now shooting 28% in the first period. 0 for their last 6. Spurs still on that 9-0 run. Make it 11-0 now. Brown again, 16 goals.
If you're a scorer, you're a scorer. Devin Brown is a scorer. You know, if he was put in a different situation like playing defense on Kobe, that's one thing. But when you can score, you can score anyway. And so you're looking at him, he's free. He's going to take a shot because it's in his norm.
Meanwhile, he was just beaten on the defensive end as you take a look at what he does offensively.
I mean, there's no thought in that. He just catches and shoots it because that's what he likes doing.
Bryant went by him, and I think every white shirt in the building then converged on Bryant under the basket. The foul is on Brown. Kobe makes the first of 2 with a half-minute to play in the period.
So right now, if you look at this first quarter, Al, Greg Popovich said we probably would come out slow, and he just wanted to make sure that the Lakers didn't get a lead that they couldn't come back on. That hasn't happened. Phil Jackson was concerned about their defense, saying we've been very inconsistent defensively. So right now, if you look at the first quarter, both coaches are extremely happy the way the game is going.
About a 3-second differential between the game clock and shot clock. Parker goes by Bryant as if Kobe was tied to the floor.
He was. I mean, that was just speed. No, the young player now wants to dribble around Parker just said, I'm quicker than you, and I'm going to use it.
Meanwhile, Kobe with a bank shot that goes, and he traveled. That time they got the traveling call.
Now, what Kobe is arguing, he's saying that he was bumped, and that's what made him travel. But it was an excellent call. See, this is the bump that Kobe is saying. I don't think it was enough. I thought it was a great call.
3 and a fraction seconds remaining as the final shot of the period goes in by Parker. Leaning forward, off balance, and the San Antonio Spurs, who were down by 7, a figurative nanosecond to go in the first period, up by 7.
Wow, that's speed. All he did again, he puts the ball on the floor, and he says, I don't need a dribble move. I'm quicker than the guys are guarding me, and I'm going to get my shot off.
This is ABC Sports, home of the NBA Finals. Spurs by 7.
You're watching the day after tomorrow's presentation of ABC Sports Play Like There's No Tomorrow.
Doc Rivers, Michelle Tafoya, SBC Center, San Antonio, where the Spurs end the first quarter on a 16-2 run, and the exclamation point provided by Tony Parker. They inbounded the ball with 3.3 seconds, and Tony Parker, who earlier had left Kobe Bryant bolted to the floor, makes a leaning three-pointer at the end.
Yeah, basically all he did was use speed. I mean, it's really neat to see a young player. This guy is 21 years old. Most of the young players in our league, they over-dribble the ball. If you're quicker than a guy, you don't need a setup move. Your setup move is that you're quicker, and that's what Tony Parker has done the last 2 times he's had the ball.
And don't forget, Tony Parker is the guy, as Jason Hart comes into the game, Parker's the guy who is going to go to the bench because the Spurs went after Jason Kidd in the offseason. Kidd, of course, elected to stay with New Jersey. Otherwise, Parker would have been on a bench this season. Out of bounds to L.A. Tony gets his first rest here. All-time playoff wins. He won't be 22, Parker, until later this month. Bryant topping that list.
Well, this is a key time in the game for the Spurs because Parker is off the floor.
O'Neal can't put it back in, but gets a second chance. That doesn't go. A third chance. That doesn't go. Lakers had 4 shots at the basket.
And I'm thinking that's the first time I've seen Shaq that close to the basket and decide not to dunk the basketball. I'm thinking he's thinking the same thing, too. I mean, the first one I thought was a sure dunk for Shaq. Instead, he just lays it in, gets it back again, throws it back up, gets it the third time, and that's the time he felt he was fouled, and he couldn't have dunked it. But that's unusual that you don't see him go stronger to the basket.
Lakers are now 0 for their last 10, and Kareem Rush got an arm in there.
I mean, this game has turned into Spur basketball over the last 4 minutes of the game. They're pushing the ball up the floor, getting shots early in the clock and executing their offense. And the Lakers, because of the Spurs defense, are getting no good looks right now.
Duncan. Nine-point San Antonio lead. Duncan now with 9 points. Rush gets it back. Medvedenko with a rebound. They missed 2 more, but at least Medvedenko will go to the free throw line.
Yeah, you know, you look at the Laker offense right now, they're scoring on hustle plays, loose balls. Their offense is completely out of sync right now, and that is really unusual for Phil Jackson's Laker basketball team. And it's funny, in the interview when we talked to Phil yesterday, that's what his concern is, their offensive execution. He must have known something, Al.
He's watching his team shoot 22% right now. TNT tomorrow, New Jersey and Detroit begin their series. And then Tuesday on TNT, New Orleans, Miami, that's a Game 7. Sacramento, Minnesota on the other side of the West bracket. That's Game 1 in Minneapolis. Duncan over O'Neal. Fisher coming away with it. Guarded by Hart. Hart, a kid who grew up near the Forum in Inglewood, as O'Neal bangs one home.
You know, Al, I was just going to say, they started out the game going to Shaquille O'Neal, and the ball was moving in and out. They got away from that. The Lakers need to go back to Shaq.
Hart. He's the backup to Parker.
And every minute that he can play and help his team, it helps Tony Parker get fresher and in a lot of cases quicker.
Bryant, good job by Brown on him that time. Bryant all the way. Can't get the floater to go, but he gets it back, banks it in, and goes to the free throw line. You know, I'm looking at these teams, Doc, and I'm thinking, we talked before, you think of San Antonio as one very big, happy, cohesive family. The Lakers are one very big, at least perception-wise, crazy, dysfunctional family. I think of it in these terms. If the Spurs are the Osmonds, the Lakers would be the Osmonds.
No doubt about it. That is so true. Yet both families, in both cases, got to work things out. They're doing pretty well, the Osmonds are.
All kinds of ways to win Peabodys and Emmys and all of the rest. Titles, NBA titles.
Yeah, there's no one way. And if the Spurs win it, it's their way. If the Lakers win it, it'll be theirs.
Bryant tried for the steal, and now Brown knocks Fisher over on his way to the hoop. And Fisher had position as an offensive foul.
Derek Fisher is the best, and I keep saying it since Stockton has left. I have to give Stockton that credit, of drawing fouls, flopping at times. He is absolutely the best at getting offensive fouls. Now, the Spurs have one in their own right in Ginobili.
Second foul on Brown. 4-point Spur lead early second quarter. Bryant. With the rebound. Bryant has started the game 2 of 7. The Lakers are 7 of 27 from the field. And
what's impressive for you, the Spurs, is Bryant is 2 for 7, and there is no Bruce Bowen guarding him right now because he's in foul trouble. I think you credit Ginobili, who has guarded him the most.
Brown picked him up on a couple of forays down the floor.
You know, I found it interesting when the Lakers were struggling. They went away a little bit from their offense and decided, Shaq, Kobe, it's time for you two to take this game over. And they both did. And now it's just a 4-point game. And that's what they have to do. And that's what Tim Duncan has to do whenever he senses his team in trouble.
And Jim Clark, one of the officials, went over because there was a little blood on the floor. And, of course, it's Devin Brown, so you have to come out.
You know, it's funny how when players are bleeding, they will hide anywhere on the floor. When Dick Bavetta blew the whistle, Devin Brown ran over to the deep corner. He knew it was him. He was trying to find a place where they couldn't find him because he know that means he has to come out of the game.
And he has to come out, have it repaired.
It's a sign of greatness. If you're a great player, they call a timeout when you bleed. If you're an average player, they sub you.
If you're a sub and you have 2 fouls, forget about it. Now there's a timeout. 8:54 remaining in the first half. San Antonio leading Los Angeles 25-21.
You're watching the NBA on ABC, home of the NBA Finals.
Manu Ginobili was born in Argentina, started his professional career in Italy. And here's what Greg Popovich says about this guy who's done a fabulous job off the bench.
Manu is like the X factor. You know, he's everywhere. I don't coach him. I just hope and pray for him because I got no clue what he's going to do. And some nights he's amazing, and other nights we got to kind of calm him down a little bit.
Manu Ginobili, some of the facts right there. Let's check in with Michelle.
Well, as you heard, Greg Popovich often at a loss for words in describing Manu Ginobili, but he has also said, I'm sure Ginobili's fun for the fans to watch, but he takes a month off my life every game he plays. And Al, I've been tracking that all-important statistic, and as of today, Manu has played 175 games and taken 14 years, 7 months off Pop's life.
Boy, I tell you, Al, and there's some truth to that. I had Darryl Armstrong and Troy Hudson, and we put them and Ginobili on the all scare you as much as you scare the other team too.
Duncan with a floater. You know, if those numbers are true, on the other side of the coin, Phil Jackson would be 350 years old after the season.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But you have to let guys like that play. You know, you observe their freedom is what you do, but you have to allow them to express themselves because that's what makes them different and good.
Luke Walton in the game. Bill's son, who sometimes doesn't appear until late in the game, comes in here in the first half, and the Lakers have just cut the lead to 4. Fisher for the deuce there. Spurs today started slowly, red hot, and that sort of synced up with when Robert Horry came into the game. Horry right now not in the game. And Dick Bavetta comes in to signal a foul on the Spurs as Bowen and Parker come back into the game for San Antonio.
Yeah, and Ginobili was more frustrated, and that's why he got that foul. Ginobili, as Pop also said, might be the toughest player that he's ever dealt with. The guy is a competitor and will never stop competing.
Ginobili's second foul, Payton back in, Rush leaving for the Lakers. Game 1, Western Conference semis. Here's Malone, who's been quiet. Carl had a big game in Game 4 last Sunday in Houston, but today, very little.
Well, you know, it's obvious. When you take shots with a hand in your face, it's far more difficult than when you get those wide open shots. You know, they're not double teaming. So he's taking shots now when a guy guarding him, far more tough, far more difficult to get your shot off, especially when that guy is dunking most of the time.
Spurs, and of course that speaks to the San Antonio defense. The Spurs and Detroit gave up the exact number of points this year as Parker has it partially blocked by O'Neal. So those two teams led the NBA in defense, tying for the title. Malone, a little fall away, and he still stays cold, but Walton is there to whip it into the corner. They work the perimeter. Now Malone is going to drive in and gets fouled by Duncan on his way to the basket.
Great patience by Gary Payton. He just got on the floor, had a wide open three, saw Malone on the right side of him, got it to him, and drew a foul of Tim Duncan. Whenever you can get a foul from Tim Duncan or Shaq, if you're the other team, you're happy.
Malone will go to the line. Spurs this year and Detroit, and Jackson's going to...
Well, Jackson and Tim Duncan are getting into it right now, and I've never seen that before from either guy.
Phil knows how to push every button.
Yeah, but you know what?
That's a good button to push.
If I'm the guy guarding Tim Duncan, I'm looking at Phil Jackson thinking, coach, be quiet. I don't need an angry Tim Duncan.
The Lakers are 8 of 8 from the free throw line. That will tell you another thing, is Popovich also wants to get into the act. It shows you that Shaq hasn't been to the line.
Yeah.
The Lakers are 8 of 30 from the field and 8 of 8 from the free throw line.
You know, when you hear 8 of 8 with the Lakers, that's an assumption now that Shaq has not been to the free throw line. Yeah, there you go.
But there's a lane violation.
Tim Duncan playing the international rules.
Well, you got guys from Turkey, Argentina, the Virgin Islands. Sort of international.
Yes.
That doesn't count as a miss, by the way. That's like no play. It's like a wave off. And the Lakers are now 9 of 9 from the line as Ginobili sits, and that's kept the Lakers in the game. Down by 2, 7:25 remaining in the first half in San Antonio. Duncan. And then Walton comes in on the front end. And a foul.
You know what Duncan does a great job of baiting? He was not looking for his shot. He was trying to get Walton to keep digging, get deeper and deeper, so he can get his other guys wide open shots.
Foul on Walton is his first. Parker, who has 7 points, to Bowen. He is deadly from the corner. Last year led the NBA in three-point shooting percentage.
Boy, Shaq is deep again. You can see it right away.
Malone lobbing it in there, and Shaq drawing the foul.
They're calling it 3 seconds.
Ooh, 3 second on Shaq. Crowd thought it was a foul initially. Jackson thought it was a foul. So come on.
I tell you, he went from one side of the lane to the other, and I couldn't tell if he was in the lane or not. You can see it. I mean, that's a pretty quick 3 seconds, I must say.
That's 3 seconds and fast forward.
Yes.
Parker. Nesterovich is there with a left hand to put it in.
You can't teach speed. You can't. That play was caused by Tony Parker's speed.
Walton gets it back in the lane. Crowd wants traveling. Clock down to 5. Duncan with a steal. Bowen to Nesterovich. Malone clearing the boards. Halfway through the second period.
Now that's 3 seconds.
That is 3, yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I got it to 8. That one was a great call. Shaq never took his foot out of the lane, and I think he was challenging him to see if they would call it 2 times in a row.
Spurs by 7.
The NBA playoffs on ABC, brought to you by Cadillac. Bold vehicles defying convention.
San Antonio, the San Antonio River. Back-to-back 3-second violations, Doc, on Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, you don't see it very often, but I tell you, the first one was quick, but the last one, watch. 1, 2, he never takes his right foot out of the paint. I bet that's about 9 seconds now that he's been in the lane, and it was a good pickup by the official. I do think Shaquille O'Neal was thinking, they just called one. It's no way they're going to call this other one, so I'm going to try to cheat the rule a little bit. Smart play by a veteran player. Unfortunately for him, there's veteran officials in this game, and they caught it.
They've been there before. The Lakers have turned the ball over 3 times on their last 3 possessions. Duncan's the only guy in the game in double figures. He has 11 points. Bryant has 9, but Kobe is 2 of 7 from the field, 5 for 5 from the free throw line. Nesterovich saves it. George staying with Turkoglu. Shot clock down to 5. O'Neal gets the rebound. Lakers shooting 27%. San Antonio 48%. George has to come out. Play clock is down to 6 as O'Neal gets it. Goes right by Nesterovich. And the foul is called on Rusho.
I tell you, when Shaquille O'Neal catches the ball and goes quick, with his power and speed, it is almost impossible to guard him. You see him here. He caught it, and most of the time, he kind of waits to see what the defense is going to do. Every once in a while, he'll go quick and catch you off guard, and it's very difficult to stop him because it's just so big and powerful.
Ginobili comes back in. A lot of people think that O'Neal is not nearly as dominant as he was. I mean, he's in his 12th year in the league. He's in his 30s. What do you think, Doc?
Well, he's not, because he's not as quick as he was, but he's still the most dominant dominant force in our league. So, I mean, if you want to say this by an nth of degree, it's very small. But he is still the most dominant player in the game because of his size. What people miss in Shaquille O'Neal, because they see this size, is his athleticism, his hands, his quickness, his passing ability.
Certainly not his free throw shooting. 13 of 44 in the Houston series and starts 0 for 2. So he is 13 of 46, less than 30% now in postseason from the line.
I mean, it's getting to a point right now when he gets fouled, they should count it as a turnover because they don't get the ball back or score.
Nesterovic missing. And it's getting worse. I mean, he's not even coming close on a lot of those free throws. Four and a half remaining in the half. San Antonio up by 7. Payton. O'Neal gets the rebound and a foul.
Yeah, I think it's on Robert Horry. It was a smart foul. Robert Horry knew if he allowed Shaq to catch the ball, it was a dunk. So he fouled him before he could catch the ball, and knowing that though it's penalty, at least he doesn't get the 2 points. So smart foul by Robert Horry.
O'Neal goes to the line as Popovich goes over things with Parker. Meanwhile, how does Shaq stack up historically from the free throw line in postseason play? I'll tell you one thing. He has real good company. He's now 0 for 3. Take a look at this. In one series, Shaq, the lowest free throw percentage ever in the Houston series, and Chamberlain, and that would figure, will have the 3 next worst percentages.
And you know the other guy who was a terrible free throw shooter is Bill Russell. You know, it's funny, these big guys struggle shooting free throws.
Ginobili missing. But one thing, an addendum to those numbers, is that all of those teams, Chamberlain's 3 and O'Neal's 1, they won the series. Parker says, foul on me?
On me.
Me? Mon ami?
That's what he was saying.
Tony's father was a basketball player in this country, went to Loyola of Illinois. Here's Brian at the free throw line. His dad played in Europe, married a woman from the Netherlands. They lived in Belgium when he was born, and then grew up in France. And Tony, of course, went to school in France. Spurs got him as a 19-year-old rookie a couple of years ago, and now he's probably one of the 5 best point guards in the league.
He is. I mean, he's turned into a terrific player. And, you know, his game is not just predicated on his speed. He has a great shot. He understands the game. He lets it come to him. And he very rarely is out of control. For a guy with that speed, that's unusual.
Horry, but Nesterovic is right there to clean it up.
The Spurs defense right now, and again, they have the Lakers completely out of their offense.
Malone.
Pushing foul on Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq underneath, trying to get position. Shaquille O'Neal, his 2nd foul.
And really a frustration foul. He just, you know what? He's tired and just push. That's a frustration foul. And again, credit Spurs defense. Right now, the San Antonio Spurs are playing the game at their pace, and they have the Lakers completely befuddled right now offensively.
Spurs, a team, as we mentioned before, along with Detroit, allowing only 84.3 points per game this season. They're the only teams in league history to allow fewer than 85 points a game in an 82-game season, as Nesterovic misses the first of 2.
Hide the kids, you know, right now with the free throw shooting. It's
well, the 2 worst free throw shooting teams in the league, but 2 of the better teams in the league, no doubt about that. Spurs by 8 at the break. 3:31 to go.
Back
Back in our Times Square studio with Byron Scott and Tom Tolbert, Mike Tirico. A reminder, the Verizon Wireless halftime report is coming up. What have you seen so far in this game?
Well, so far, Kobe hasn't been able to get on track. Bruce Bowen had 2 fouls early, and he's still only 2 for 7. So look for Kobe to get a little bit better in the second half, especially.
I think the Lakers are doing a horrible job making Nesterovic pay for fronting Shaquille O'Neal. Learn how to throw a lob pass, for God's sakes.
Well, highlights of a crazy and contentious Game 6 that forced a Game 7 in the last Round 1 series. Back to Al Doc and Michelle.
All right, thank you, guys. The Lakers down by 8. The Lakers are shooting 25%. They're 8 out of 32. You know, Malone, Doc, and Payton come over to win a ring after illustrious careers with Utah and Seattle, respectively. The two of them in this game are 2 for 14.
2 for 14, and, you know, they both have had good looks. Malone is being defended a little bit differently than he was in the first round with Houston. Payton has had some pretty good looks early, and now lately he's not been involved in the offense. I really thought that Payton would try to go to the post more in this series. I thought he tried it early on, missed a couple, and then has come out away from the basket. I think he needs to go back down there because there's no way he's going to be outside and beat Payton or Parker with speed.
Wow. Nesterovic missing the free throw, and the Lakers now trying to shave the margin as we approach the half. Bryant, 4-3. And so that's exactly what the Lakers need at this point. They need Kobe Bryant to get hot.
They really do. They need him to get going, and they must keep Shaq involved. When the team is struggling, go to your stars. Let them bail you out.
Shot clock, 6. Bowman, he's deadly from the corner. He takes almost 90% of his three-pointers from the corner. That one was in foreign territory for him, and a foul away from the play called by Dick Bavetta.
Yeah, that wasn't his spot. That was too far out of the corner for Bowen. Not comfortable, but the hands of Tim Duncan are amazing. That's why he's a great rebounder. You have to be a great rebounder. You have to be strong, tall, be able to get rebounds out of your area, and you also have to be able to keep the ball alive. Watch this. Tim Duncan doesn't have a good grasp of the ball, but he keeps it alive, and he still is able to bring it in.
Fouls called on Gary Payton, his second. Duncan is 1 of 4, now 1 of 5 from the free throw line. And we can tell you next Sunday, coverage of the NBA playoffs continues. We'll be in L.A., Staples Center, site Game 3, Lakers Spurs. Next Sunday.
Well, I tell you, Al, every high school coach right now is going nuts because they're telling their kids to shoot free throws, and that's what wins games. And both of these great teams are dispelling that rumor right now.
And the Spurs are 1 of 9. The Lakers really staying in the game because they've been decent from the free throw line. I say decent, you know, Shaq is 0 for 4, but the rest of the Lakers are 10 of 11. Foul is on Duncan. That is his second.
And here we go again.
Oh, boy.
You know, we just had Duncan. Now we get O'Neal.
But, you know, it's funny. You can make too much of free throw shooting. Again, I go back to the fact these are the 2 worst free throw shooting teams in the league. But in a lot of power polls, they'd be, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in that category, along with maybe Minnesota and Indiana right now.
Yeah, that's because these 2 teams have the best talent in the league also. And talent at the end of the day will override the poor free throw shooting. And on mark, Shaq just steps up and makes both of them. And both of those look good.
Extra editions of the LA Times coming out right now. 2 straight for O'Neal, 34-31 San Antonio. Difference in this game is the huge disparity in shooting from the field. Horry gets double teamed by a couple of guys he's seen a lot through the years, though he didn't play with him in LA. Malone and Payton had him fronted and backed.
Yeah, and the bump here by Malone causes Robert Horry to lose his balance, and then he runs over Payton and gets an offensive foul.
Now the only guy in the league who can call Malone kid comes into the game as Horry goes out. Kevin Willis, in his 20th season in the NBA, finally won a ring last year. Played a lot the last time they met in the regular season, Doc, and was very instrumental in providing a lot of energy for San Antonio in LA on April 4th. Payton has to come back out to Bryant. Long two. Willis with a rebound.
The one thing you know about Kevin Willis is he loves to mix it up. So this is his type of game.
Parker missing the three. That rebound bounced off the floor and above the backboard. The officials check with each other and they give it to San Antonio.
You know, you look at Karl Malone's body, you look at Kevin Willis' body, and you look at Jack Ramsey over there doing the radio. Those three guys have the best bodies in the building.
Ramsey could win a gymnastics championship. Here's Duncan, free from 18. Minute and a half to play in the half in game 1. Game 2 here on Wednesday. Game 3 next Sunday. The Lakers, meanwhile, among other things, will fly home after the game. They're treating this like 2 separate road trips. And that was a big story earlier. Foul call here. Phil Jackson has opted, since they have to be here again on Wednesday, to fly the team home after the game. That's almost a 3-hour flight. Practice in L.A. Monday and Tuesday, and then get back on the plane and come back here Wednesday. That's been done a lot in the past, but on shorter trips, Doc.
Yeah, it's a long trip, and I think what Phil Jackson is saying, number one, is this is an afternoon game. So they're going to get back at a decent hour this evening and be able to sleep in their own beds. And I always think that there's a value of sleeping in your own bed. So not a bad thing, but I think coming back that 3 hours is tough.
O'Neal made his last 2. 2 of 7 overall. You can go to the NBA store on NBA.com to order a lot of good merchandise. The NBA store online at NBA.com.
You know, again, you look at both teams. The Spurs you knew would play great defense. If you're looking at Phil Jackson, as bad as things look right now, their offense is out of sync. They're only down 5 points, and the Spurs only have 36 points in their own right.
And that's amazing. And look at that disparity. If you're shooting 26%, you're normally down by a lot more than 5 to a team like San Antonio. Ginobili gets doubled as he goes to the hoop, and then it's out of bounds, but they have only 6 on the shot clock as they inbound the ball.
And that's a good no call. I really thought that there was contact, but I thought it was initiated by Ginobili, and I really thought he went into Malone to try to get a foul.
That's Duncan off the glass.
That's why you want a great player, because no matter how much time's on the clock, you always have that option.
O'Neal is guarded by Willis. And the 41-year-old Willis gets the rebound. Brown for 3. So Brown comes back in the game and provides another spark, as he did in the first period. And the Lakers take a timeout. So they were chipping away at the lead. Looked like they'd have it close in the half, and all of a sudden it's San Antonio by 10. San Antonio, the NBA champions. You know, Doc, their position, much as they were last year, good finish at the end of the regular season, I think they might be even better positioned this year than they were last.
Well, last year it was a surprise to them. I don't know if they realized how good they were or could be. This year, they honestly believe that they're going to win the World Championship. And I think of all the differences in these teams this year and last year, that's the difference. And also that Parker and Ginobili have taken more of a scoring role now for the Spurs and taken off some of that load on Tim Duncan.
And on top of all that, here's San Antonio kind of sneaking their way to a championship last year. Now a lot of people would not be surprised. And this is a team that still has about $10 million in cap room. So they're a team on the rise.
Yeah, I think R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich have built this team perfectly. First, you start with Tim Duncan. You know, Ginobili's going to be a guy that they're going to have to deal with soon contractually. But they've thought about that. They've already planned ahead, and they're going to be able to assign him him and maybe bring someone else in.
Well, there are the guys who won the title last year. Robinson retiring, Jackson to Atlanta, Claxton, Ferry, Curve, Steve Smith. So 6 of the 12 gone. They picked up Ori from the Lakers, Nesterovic from Minnesota, got Turkoglu from Sacramento. Jason Hart's coming as the backup point guard. Ward came from the Knicks. And then Devin Brown, who's been in sparingly here, but has made a tremendous difference.
And I think at some point, they're going to miss Speedy Claxton and Stephen Jackson, because Stephen Jackson was just a wild card. And I think they're going to miss that, though Ginobili is becoming that.
Those guys are going to miss the Spurs as well, as O'Neal goes to the hoop.
No, they have missed the Spurs. Yeah. They're listening to us right there.
They're watching us saying, we could use a little more jewelry, or we're not going to get it this year.
And this is a great pick and roll. Give it to Shaq. Great pass, and look at the reaction by Kobe right there. You know, great scorers love setting up other guys and giving them shots also, especially when those two are involved. As much as they talk about the Shaq and Kobe riff, there's no other player on the Lakers that feeds Shaq more than Kobe.
We pointed that out last week. The most assists for Shaquille O'Neal came from Kobe Bryant, despite Bryant missing a number of games this year, and Peyton playing in every one of them. Shaq at the line. 8 and a fraction seconds to play in the half. Spurs figure to get the final shot. Duncan from 20 feet. Not a good one. Malone gets the rebound, and that's the end of the half. So nobody with 3 fouls. Lakers shoot 28%. Spurs shoot 45%. San Antonio only 1 of 9 from the free throw line. Otherwise, the margin will be even greater, and it's 8 points at the half as we go to Michelle.
8-point lead, Tony. How did this first half go compared to what you guys had planned for?
I think I'm pretty happy with the score. You know, we missed a lot of wide open shots, missed a lot of free throws. So I think we need to come back more aggressive in second half, try to make open shots and play our same D. I think we'd be okay.
Well, the Lakers missed a lot of wide open shots too. How was your defense so effective?
I think we're pretty good. I think we can improve. You know, we gave a lot of easy looks to Shaq, and Kobe hit a couple threes, so we need to take care of Kobe and Shaq, make sure they don't get easy looks.
Okay, Tony, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much.
Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Michelle. So at halftime, it's San Antonio leading the Lakers 41-33. And after this break, we'll join Mike, Tom, and Byron in our Times Square studio in New York. They'll be along with the Verizon Wireless halftime report. Game 1 at halftime.
Live from Times Square in New York City, this is the Verizon Wireless Halftime Report. Now, your host, Mike Tirico.
Well, game 1 of round 2 has the Spurs on top by 8. Tim Duncan and the Spurs struggling at the free throw line. Their field goal percentage is better. This is more of the type of game that they are comfortable in. And the lead is 8 at the break. Welcome to the Verizon Wireless with Byron and Tom. I feel like I've sold everybody a bill of goods saying this is the best the NBA has to offer. That was hard to watch at times. Even though it was very entertaining and well contested, it was just bad basketball.
Well, there wasn't a lot of offensive efficiency in the first half anyway. I mean, you got a better chance of finding a beer in Utah on Sunday than you do offensive efficiency in this game. It's got to get better, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And Tony Parker would be one reason it's going to get better. Because, Byron, he did the things that you talked about in the pregame.
Yeah, he really did, Mike. You know, he was able to penetrate that middle and get to the point, get to the basket on the Los Angeles Lakers. And they didn't do a real good job on the defensive end, especially in transition, allowing him to get by him. But this is one of the best defensive players in the league, Kobe Bryant, and he just blew right by him and got in there for a layup. This is the playoffs. You can't allow easy baskets in the playoffs. And this is just athleticism and just a great player, really starting to feel his oats and starting to knock down some shots. And he got these guys going early when this game really was going on a bad way. I mean, Tony got some excitement back into the game, and hopefully if he can continue to do that in the third quarter and the second half, you know, they're going to be in pretty good shape.
But you start to see trends in types of shots teams are getting. Show
Well, I think when you look at this series, a common thread throughout the games may be open looks. And I think the Spurs are going to have a better shot at getting open looks than the Lakers. And you're going to see right here, Duncan, easy. In fact, he's better from 18 than he is from the free throw line. Parker, right there, Devin Brown, easy shot. Duncan drawing the double team, layup. The Lakers aren't getting these type of looks. Suck the defense in, Bowen, wide open shot. They had many more wide open shots in the first half than the Lakers did it, and this could be a theme throughout the whole series because they got guys in Duncan and Parker that can create shots for other people, and they're a better defensive team, so the Lakers aren't going to get the same open looks the Spurs get.
As you fix your collar, because it's bothering me, I have a question for you.
I didn't know whether to go. I didn't know whether to go like Clinton Portis. You know how he did in his press conference where he kind of had it open like
this. Do that.
That's kind of cool, right?
That looks much better. But listen,
you got any gold chains for me?
Not right. Actually, I have one note.
Okay, I'll just keep it like this.
We were having conversations. We watched the first half in the back about the style of play. It's a Spurs-type game, but you made a very good point because we don't know what the Lakers' style of play is right now.
You know, you look at every team in the NBA, and the Spurs are get it to Duncan, Parker penetrate, defense. The Kings are get up and down the court. Mavericks are really get up and down the court. Nets get up and down the court. Detroit is defense. Every team has a style. What is the Lakers' style? I don't know what it is. They're not an up-and-down team. They're not a great defensive team. They just throw a bunch of talent out there, and I think they hope, that will get it done. And usually they have enough talent to get it done, but I still don't know what the Lakers' style is.
Well, my problem is style. You're right about style, but Tom, what is your style right now with this collar? I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking at this collar, and I'm still trying to figure out what is your style with this collar.
I have no style. I have no style. I am a style wreck.
We got to help him out.
Is what I am.
We got to help Tom out.
I'm a mess.
He is style challenged. It has been stylistic, pretty basketball in the one remaining first-round series, but boy, it has become very heated between, sorry for the pun, Miami and New Orleans. That wasn't intentional either. Baron Davis-Tom didn't shoot much in the first half of this game.
No, he didn't, but he made, I think, 2 out of the 4 shots he took. But the reason the Hornets won this game, inside dominance, outscored them 62-32 in the paint. If they want to win Game 7, that's what they're going to have to rely on, inside dominance.
And Davis dished out a playoff career-best 12 assists. But Robert Tractor Trailer started what has continued throughout the series. A very, very physical series made harder on the 2 officials working because Joey Crawford, the veteran official who's worked more playoff games than any official in the league, was lost in the first quarter to a foot injury. Down 19, the Heat charged back. Lamar Odom a 3. They're making a little run. And then Robert Trailer is called for a technical foul here. The words, he is eventually called for another tee and ejected. And all the offense ended up coming at the free throw line. Then this spinning hoop by Caron Butler. All of a sudden, a 19-point game was 6. And then Butler again made it a 4-point game. And the Heat, who were trying to close it out on the road, thought they were getting back in it. But Rasul Butler misses this wild 3. As time ran out, the opportunities did. And then at the end of the game, a fan, unfortunately, gets involved. And Caron Butler comes back. The whole undercurrent of this series has been, it's been an orphan series, forgotten by many people. As you look at the McDonald's NBA bracket in the Eastern Conference, it's the only one still going in round 1. They'll play Game 7 on Tuesday night back in Miami, where the Heat have won 15 consecutive games at home in the American Airlines Arena. So, you've had the home team win the first 6 games of the series. That hasn't happened in the NBA in 6 years, and now we are faced with Game 7, and one of the first things you look at, who's at home, because the home team's 70-15 in Game 7s.
Well, obviously Miami's at home, and this is a great opportunity for them to close out this series. But I said before this series started, and I disagree with my man Double T over here, New Orleans will win this series. They will win in Miami in Game 7 because, number one, mental toughness, and they're a much more physical basketball team. And I thought Tractor Trailer came in and changed the whole attitude of the team because of his physical play, setting great screens, being aggressive, and it kind of got everybody else involved in that style of play, and they were able to just take Miami completely out of the game.
Well, Tom, you've watched these games in this series. We're going to show you how physical it's been and how nasty it has been. This is just the last couple of games. Games 5 and 6, we've had 11 technicals. Now you get to a Game 7 situation when this has been happening. A lot of it's going to be keeping your poise as well.
Yeah, and when you look at the series, too, Miami's not a real physical team, so I think New Orleans trying to take it to them. And sometimes that'll happen where you're not a real physical team. Now, Brian Grant's a real physical player, but you want to stand up for yourself. You don't want to let a team run roughshod all over you. So I think, what I think is going to happen is you get Miami at home. They're going to be comfortable. They're a team that likes to play up and down. I know no one's taking me seriously because I have this color issue right now. But I think, home teams have won. They're a team that loves to buzz up and down the court, loves to shoot jump shots. And I think things are easier when you have the crowd behind you.
I think it looks fine. So you like Miami Game 7?
I love Miami in Game 7. Love them.
A man who would fit right in South Beach.
Lock that up.
Right now. So Game 7 will come up in that series on Tuesday night. Waiting is the Indiana Pacers, who will have 10 days off from their last game to the next game. Half of Game 1 of Round 2, the Lakers trailing in San Antonio by 8, 41-33. Is there security around that trophy in Times Square? We'll continue with more of the Verizon right after this.
This This halftime report presented by Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you.
Can you hear me now? Good.
Well, this series will continue, albeit slowly. Wednesday is Game 2, and Game 3 will be 1 week from today. And you'll see it from Staples Center. Our coverage begins with GMC NBA hang time at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Devin Brown hit all 3 of his field goals. He has 7. His team on top, and half number 2 comes to you after you watch this.
This halftime report presented by Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you. The second half is next after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Can you hear me now? Good.
You're watching the day after tomorrow's presentation of ABC Sports Play Like There's No Tomorrow.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is in the house as at halftime the San Antonio Spurs lead the Los Angeles Lakers 41-33. So when this series began, so many things to talk about. You had Duncan, you had O'Neal, Bryant, Tony Parker, and all of that. How do you break down what happened here in the first half today, Doc?
Well, if you're San Antonio, you're happy because you knew you had to make this a defensive series, and you knew for them to score, they had to score in the open court. And in the first half, they did both things. For the Lakers, you're not that happy. You know, when you look at the series in the first game, at least, Devin Brown right now has outscored Karl Malone and Gary Payton, and he's doing it by just stepping up, making shots. You can see the respect that he's getting. He's getting wide open shots, but for a guy like Devin Brown, he's not going to hesitate because he is a scorer. He's a shooter. So when you look at the numbers, when you see Devin Brown with 7 points and Karl Malone and Gary Payton 2 for 14 with 6 points, then you know that's a big X factor, a gigantic X factor right now for the Spurs.
And not only that, Brown's played 8 minutes, and Malone and Payton combined have played 38 minutes.
Yeah, and it is a concern. And, you know, Karl Malone is getting good shots and not making them. I think they still have to figure out a way to interject Gary Payton into this playoff. I'm not talking about this game. I'm talking about the total playoffs because he's yet to get involved yet.
Michelle, you've been prowling the corridors at halftime. What's going on?
Well, I talked to Jim Clemens, the Lakers assistant, as he came out of the locker room. He said, we knew San Antonio had one of the best defenses in the league. They're rested. They're playing active. He said, our turnovers, coupled with really poor free throw shooting, has us in a quagmire. We have got to move the ball better, he said, but to suffice it to say, the Spurs have our attention. Al, one sign that they might not be that worried, Kobe Bryant came out of the locker room whistling.
In the dark.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out. 41-33 San Antonio. Lakers shooting 28% in the first half. And Turkoglu was impeded on his way to the basket. And here comes the whistling Bryant now. Kobe's going to go all the way and put it in. Whistle while you work. 41-35.
Well, I tell you, Tim Duncan took a nice fall, too.
Duncan gets up and reaches to the left side of his neck. Remember, Tim missed action a couple of months ago. Missed about 10 games with a leg injury. Oh, and that one is blocked by Devin George.
Tell you what, right now, the Lakers are coming out defensively with a ton of energy.
Again, San Antonio with home court advantage in this series, but as you all know, you win 1 of 2 in the first 2, and you erase that home court advantage, and that's what the Lakers are trying to do right now as they turn the ball over. And Parker gets fouled as he drives underneath.
And you can see here, I mean, great move, number one. Kobe is really using his speed to get around, and then you can see Duncan tumbling backwards.
Foul on Gary Payton, his 3rd, and the Spurs, and this is the only reason the Lakers are even this close. They're now 1 of 10 from the free throw line.
Yeah, that's the story right now in this half. The first half, you look at the Lakers, they make 12 free throws, and the Spurs make 1. That's the difference.
42-35. Two teams have won the last 5 NBA titles. And O'Neal goes to the basket, goes down, gets fouled by Nesterovic on the way down.
And you can see Nesterovic tried to foul him hard. But again, if you allow Shaquille O'Neal to get the ball above his waist, it's over. A foul, you're a flea. You know, I don't know who said it, but everybody's an ant to Shaq. Some are big ants, some are red ants, some are small ants, but at the end of the day, they're all ants. And that's a great example.
And Shaq wearing that sleeve or brace on his right knee, which has been bothering him. We talked to him last night. It's like he doesn't even want to think about it. He says, you know, you got to feed the dog all the time, and he won't be hurt. It sounded very prophetic, and I went to, you know, to sleep last night thinking about it and saying, does that mean?
Feed the hungry dog.
Feed the hungry dog.
Yes, that's my guess.
Duncan. Wow. Puts it in from the lane. 44-37 San Antonio. Parker picking Payton up at midcourt. Kobe couldn't get free off an O'Neal screen and settles for a long three-pointer to make it 44-40.
Boy, he got it in his rhythm, though. It's pretty impressive. Got his feet set, got a great look. And you're not going to see Kobe Bryant get that many looks.
Three-point attempt here. Bowen missing that one, but Parker gets the offensive board. Parker dishes it off to Turkoglu for 3.
Tough shot.
Yeah.
You know, just because you have a 3, there's times when you don't need it. And on that one, Turkoglu should have passed that one up.
Kobe falling down. O'Neal gets the rebound. Malone trying to lob it to O'Neal, and it was batted away out of bounds.
I tell you, it's rare that you see a team get away with fronting Shaquille O'Neal, and Greg Popovich and his Spurs are doing a great job. They're pressuring the passer, number one, making it very difficult for them to see. And when they do try to throw it over top, the Spurs are doing a great job of weak side rotations.
O'Neal backing into Nesterovic and puts it in. It's a 2-point game.
Maybe Kobe knew something coming out of halftime.
O'Neal now with 14 points. He has 11 rebounds. Duncan has 17 points. And as he's going down, he walks with it. So the Lakers now with a chance to tie it or even take the lead. And we played less than 4 minutes here in the second half.
Karl Malone pulling the chair once again. He does it as well as anyone in the league. Tim Duncan was looking for his body, couldn't find it, lost his balance, traveling. We've had more traveling in 3 seconds in this game in the entire NBA season.
And George drives to the hoop. It doesn't go down, but he gets fouled on the play. Turkoglu commits the foul. And George now with an opportunity to tie the game.
But it was all set up by the cut and pass by Karl Malone. Right now, the Lakers spacing is different than it was in the first half. They were out of sync completely in the first half, and they have found something to go to, and everything so far in the second half has been at the elbows. A lot of elbow action for the Lakers. They're getting the shots they want.
George's first point of the game makes it a 1-point differential. Ginobili has come in as Popovich counters.
And great substitution, because it's clear right now that the Lakers are playing with more energy than the Spurs. So who do you bring in? Ginobili, Mr. Energy.
Turkoglu sits, and the Lakers have just erased a 10-point deficit. It was 41-31 San Antonio. The biggest Laker lead was 7 early in the first quarter. Tied at 44. Parker all the way, and O'Neal swats it out of bounds with 8 seconds on the shot clock.
Boy, that was close. I tell you, Parker had nowhere to go. That was very close to goaltending, but I thought it was still on the rise. It has to reach the apex before you can call goaltending.
Fourth block by Shaq. Air ball here, but it's caused by a foul. And Malone says,
I think it was a good call out. When Tim Duncan went up, Karl Malone went up under his body and took his balance away. Watch here. He's going to come up under him, and there's the foul. That's a very good call. And that's the new defensive theme now going on in our league. Very tough for the officials to see it because usually they're blocked out by the body.
Duncan is 1 of 7 from the free throw line. He has 17 points. He's 8 of 11 from the field. 1 of 7 from the stripe. It's still in vogue, strike, Doc? Can I use charity strike?
Yeah, right now, anything charity would be good when we're talking free throws.
(45-44) San Antonio. O'Neal takes it away from Nesterovic and then tries to blind pass it into Bryant, and he gets fouled by Bowen.
Or out of bounds on Bowen, and really great recovery by Bowen because Kobe was open. That's an amazing recovery job to even get a hand on the ball by Bruce Bowen.
So meanwhile, Kobe pinwheeling that shoulder, which has been injured during the course of the season. In fact, at one point in March, it looked like he'd be out for a long time as the Lakers take the lead on Malone's two-pointer.
See, that's the difference right there between Turkoglu when he took the quick shot and Malone. Malone didn't feel it when he first got it. He gathered himself, got his feet together, and he makes the shot. Experience.
You know, Kobe was still massaging that right shoulder as he came down the floor.
And I like what Gary Payton is doing now. Whenever Parker gives the ball up, Payton is denying the catch back. Good defense by Gary Payton.
Malone trying to get it to George, and it was knocked away by Ginobili, and then out of bounds. It'll go to Los Angeles, and Ginobili is hurt as he holds his right shoulder falling to the floor.
He leaned forward to try to get an edge on getting the loose ball over Devin George, and he fell right on it. You know, you watch this. First he gets his hand. Watch him lean, and now his arm is exposed. And you know where most guys get hurt? On the fall.
You know, the Lakers inbounded with 7 seconds on the shot clock from backcourt, so they've got to get it away in a hurry, and Kobe does, but it doesn't go, and Nesterovic comes away with it. Parker driving, goaltending.
See, that's why Gary Payton wants to deny Parker the catch, because you get Parker in the open court with that speed, he can do whatever he wants to do.
Bryant all the way, scores, gets fouled.
He faked like he was going to throw it to Shaq. Nesterovic turns his head. Amazing play. I mean, these are the plays that great players can make. Watch the fake right there. You see Nesterovic? He turns his head. Unbelievable.
Trying to make it a 2-point lead. Bryant now has 20 points. 20 of LA's 48. O'Neal has 14. So now the two of them with 35 of LA's 49 points. Ginobili behind the line for 3.
All Tim Duncan. That play was all Tim Duncan. He waited, he baited, he waited. He forced him to finally double team him, and right when he did, Ginobili gets a wide open 3. Those are the things that people just don't see, the greatness in Tim Duncan.
The old wait and bait trick. O'Neal from Bryant.
Oh, Kobe Bryant. You know, and you can see that.
Halfway mark, 3rd quarter, game 1. This figures to be a tremendous series. 51-50. Lakers.
The NBA playoffs on ABC, brought to you by Nissan, who invites you to shift the way you move through the world.
Phil Jackson's been at the helm of the Lakers 5 years. The Lakers shot 28% in the first half, second lowest field goal percentage by a Laker team under Jackson, regular or postseason, in the 5 years. Now they've come out 7 for 10 here in the third period. Shaquille O'Neal went to high school here. Take a look at this video.
What's been the secret to Cole's success this year?
Well, secret is me blocking shots and getting rebounds and making my shots well.
Shaquille O'Neal. Dad was in the Army, so went to high school here. You know, he had that thing going, Doc, that, you know, the way he does interviews. I think he's hysterical. You can see the genesis of that in high school.
The secret is me.
just that rhythm and cadence. Robert Horry back in the game, gives it to Tim Duncan. And then Bryant comes in to knock it away, and it goes to the Lakers out of bounds.
Again, the Karl Malone hands. You know, we talked about it before the game, that Karl Malone was going to use his hands and try not to allow Tim Duncan to get the ball above his shoulders, and that was a great case right there.
Bryant.
He's on fire.
Oh, man.
He
has
completely
10 in the quarter.
Dominated this quarter. And, you know, he came out whistling.
Duncan throws up a wild left-hander, and Malone comes away with it. Payton backs Parker all the way down. George outside for three, and Devin makes it 56-50, and Popovich says time out right now.
Well, I tell you, Al, the playoffs are about adjustment. The Lakers have made an offensive adjustment in the second half, and this is why they have the lead.
56-50 Los Angeles. Bryant 23 points, 10 in this period, Doc.
Yeah, he's completely taking the game over, and he's doing it in every way. He's making catch-and-shoot jump shots. He's coming off the glass. He's getting rebounds. I mean, he's been the difference so far in the second half. And he's getting everybody involved. It's not just his scoring.
Parker, reverse. Beautiful.
Boy, look at Gary Payton bring the ball up the court. He's furious because they forced the pick and roll down. He was anticipating help, and there was no help. See, that's what Payton has to do, but he's not making the shot.
And Parker is.
You know, Parker's speed versus Payton's power. The speed is winning out right now because Payton's not making a shot. I guarantee you when he watches this game, he's going to be happy with his attempts, just not with the results.
Parker 6 of 13 from the field. Payton is 1 of 7. Bryant. Spurs trying to erase a 6-point deficit. Air ball may have been partially touched.
Or the ball was scared. One of the two was no shot.
George, the three again. He just made one and another.
A confidence player. When Devin George makes one, find him because he'll make 2, 3, and 4. When he misses one, don't find him because he won't shoot.
Started out the season to George hot, then cooled off, then lost his starting job, and gets it back now in the playoffs. Ginobili. O'Neal looking for the outlet to Payton. A shovel to George, and it's almost as if the quarterback, you know, made that errant little toss to the running back, and you're out of sync, and you can't make the catch, and it's a fumble.
And George didn't know what he wanted to do. He didn't know if he wanted to catch and put it on the floor or shoot. And usually, when that happens, you turn the ball over.
Lakers by 5, a little over 3 to play in the third quarter.
You know, interesting sub in the first half, when the Spurs took Duncan out, they actually made a run.
They were down 12-5 at that point. They brought Ori in. And with a tick under 3 to play, LA leads 59-54 in game 1.
Back in San Antonio, Tony Parker has 14 points, and he's heading to the line, and his father, Tony Sr., is here in the house today, sweating just a little bit, played his college ball at Chicago Loyola, and with his mom, along with his wife, rather, raised Tony in Paris with their brothers, TJ and Pierre. Now, TJ is also here today wearing a Tony Parker jersey. These two, growing up in Paris, were NBA fans. Tony and Pierre, the youngest, would play 2-on-2 against TJ, who's sitting there, and their best friend, Alexi. And they always divvied up teams. Now, Tony and Pierre were always the Spurs, because Pierre's favorite player was David Robinson. TJ there, and his best friend would be the Bulls, because TJ's favorite was Scottie Pippen. They would pretend they were in the NBA Finals, TJ was telling me today, Al. And Tony and Pierre, more often than not, won those NBA Finals 4-2.
So he has more than one ring.
4-2. Yeah, he has a bunch of them.
Right.
And obviously, he doesn't like the 7th game.
And Parker now has 9 points in this period. He went to the free throw line because of the foul by O'Neal, and Shaq becomes the first Laker with 3 fouls. And Bryant now. Kobe Bryant, red hot.
Red hot.
61-56. 12 now in the period. A dozen points for Kobe Bryant in the 3rd period. Starovich underneath and a little hook.
He decided to make that a little tougher than he had to. He was right up under the bucket. You know, this quarter has all been about the small guys, setting everybody up. Kobe Bryant for the Lakers, Tony Parker for the Spurs.
And another small guy, Fisher, from outside. That's a 2-pointer, 2 points.
The adjustment the Lakers have made is playing through the elbows. Everything is through the elbows and a lot of 2-man game.
Starovich. Ori couldn't control the rebound. The Lakers had 14 points in the first period, 19 in the second. They already have 30 here in this period. And Bryant will try to add 3 more. Wow. Ori with a rebound.
That was too easy. I think he was thinking no defense. Maybe that's the way to guard it.
And Brown, who comes into the game to try to give him another spark for the 3rd time, loses it. And Malone, on his way to the basket, draws the foul.
But you know what was impressive about that play is the transition defense from the San Antonio Spurs. Usually this is a layup. They spread the floor, they run the floor. 3 Spurs got in on that play. And those are the type of plays that win games and playoff series.
Foul is charged to Ginobili, and that's his 3rd. Starovich and Ginobili each have 3 fouls. Payton and O'Neal for the Lakers each have 3. 64-58. Lakers with 121. Substitution now as Medvedenko comes in, and they'll rest O'Neal for at least the balance of the 3rd period.
Interesting switch because Medvedenko was sitting at the table waiting for Malone. I think Phil Jackson looked at the score, looked at the time, thought this would be a great time to get Shaquille O'Neal a rest.
Get the rest of the period. You get a pretty good sized commercial break between 3 and 4. 7-point Laker lead. They had a 7-point lead at 12-5 in the first quarter. Brown with 6 on the clock. Payton with a rebound. Under a minute to play. 3rd period. Bryant from inside the arc. Parker Driving on Payton, puts it in over Gary.
That's a Gary Payton spin move that he put on Gary Payton. I mean, Tony Parker is single-handedly right now keeping the Spurs in this game.
The glove didn't fit on that.
No, it did not.
65-60 Los Angeles.
No one should quit, though, Al.
I wasn't going any further. Medvedenko, the rebound to Ori. That's why I'm going to miss you. Parker. A second and a half. Fisher gets it off, and we're set up for a pretty wild fourth quarter. End of three. The Los Angeles Lakers 65, the San Antonio Spurs 62. And this presentation of the NBA on ABC will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Score by quarters, the Lakers had 33 points in the first half and 32 in the third quarter alone, leading by 3, erasing an 8-point halftime deficit. Here's today's All-State Good Hands player, Kobe Bryant. Third period, had 12 points.
And did it all now. I mean, there's nothing he didn't do in this quarter, that being the most special of all the moves he made. But he just got everyone involved, and he got himself involved, and that's exactly what the Lakers needed.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the floor, Parker had 13 points in that period alone, and Tony now has 20 in the game. So the fourth quarter is underway in game 1. Rushing the game for the Lakers. Medvedenko stays in, and O'Neal also comes in, and there goes Bryant again, up by 5.
And that was well defended. I mean, it had hand in the face, made him fade back. That's just greatness.
Parker. Duncan outfights the Lakers for the rebound and puts it in.
And what can you do when you have a determined Tim Duncan? Again, the hands come into play. You know, you miss some of the special things about Tim Duncan. There's another example of those great hands. When the ball gets on his hands, it usually sticks, and that's a great example. That's why he's such a great rebounder.
But he can't hit from the line. He's 2 of 9 today.
You know, he is the more troubling one because he's such a great shooter from the outside. You know, Shaquille O'Neal, above the free throw line, he didn't take a lot of shots from there. Tim Duncan does.
O'Neal only took 4 from outside 15 feet during the regular season. Bryant again, a one-man show. Wow. How in the world? Wow. How do you do that?
Wow. You don't. That's why he's so good.
29 points for Kobe Bryant. Off the glass, Duncan. 22 for Tim.
And again, not as flashy, but he gets the job done. And that's all you want as a coach.
Fisher collects it. Come the Spurs. Duncan driving on O'Neal.
And this is the first time in this series so far that Shaquille O'Neal has been guarding Tim Duncan. And since Shaq has guarded Duncan, the Spurs have gone to him the last 3 times. And now Shaquille O'Neal has just picked up his 4th foul.
Hit the rim 4 times and finally drops. For Tim, who's now 3 of 10. Bowen comes in. Devin Brown goes out for San Antonio.
Yeah, and Bowen is coming in now with a lot of fouls in his bank. to really try to put the lock on Kobe Bryant. We talked about it before the game, and there's a ton of X factors, but at the end of the day, the great players will win this game for the Spurs or the Lakers.
And Turkoglu steals it from Rush and gets fouled.
You know, I was talking to Mario Elie, and one of the things he said before the game about Turkoglu is everyone talks about his offense, but we have found that he is a terrific defender. And, it's the stigma. He came from Sacramento, and people assumed that he wasn't a defender, and they found out that he was. He said that was gravy. They didn't know it. They brought him in here for his offense, and they've been pleasantly surprised with his defense.
Mario Elie, one of the assistant coaches for the Spurs, as Ori comes out of the game. Nesterovic comes in. It was a non-shooting foul. There is Mario.
You know, he played for the Rockets, got a ring, came to San Antonio, got a ring. So he's a ring hunter. I think that's what he's looking for.
Meanwhile, guys like Payton and Malone, no rings. That's what they came to L.A. for. Will this be the year? Nesterovic missing, but Duncan is there. They get the rebound, and then Bryant is able to wrestle it away.
Wow. That was foul on Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant.
Each foul neutralizing the other. Out of bounds, off the Lakers. And now Kobe started to get into it underneath.
Yeah, you can
call that a technical foul. A technical foul called on Bryant.
See, to me, that should be a double tag because I thought they both walked up on each other, and you could see Kobe running his mouth, and that's why he got the foul. But I really believe in those circumstances, both guys should get the technical foul.
And that's what the Lakers are arguing right now. Meanwhile, Ginobili got a fortuitous bounce on that one. And that ties the game at 69 each.
Yeah, that's what the Lakers are saying. Wait a minute. They both walked up on each other. You can only see one guy talking. Either way, to me, either you call it tech on both or you don't call one at all. I mean, really, it looked like Kobe was almost saying, calm down. You know, watch his hands. He's almost like, calm down. And, you know, they're both talking here.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was one of those cases. You just give a double foul, a double tech.
Yep. Jason Hart is now in the game. He has the ball. Hart, the backup point guard, as Parker gets what will probably be his final rest of the game. Ginobili for three. Over the top of the backboard, and the Lakers to inbound with the score tie.
And this is supposed to be the finesse. West, right now, this has turned into a war. Both teams are being physical and aggressive, and the refs better be very careful at this point of the game.
The brawling West.
You can see the importance of game one being played out in front of you right now. Both teams are looking at this game. It's a tie score. They know the game is on the balance right now.
I think there might be a problem with the 24-second clock, and that's why we have this stoppage. Dick Bavetta is over at the table. They've reset the clock. Now it seems to be in working order again. And a familiar refrain in every sport: beat LA, beat LA.
Yes.
I think it started in San Francisco with the Giants and the Dodgers. O'Neal couldn't hammer it home. Nesterovic is there, fronting O'Neal for the steal. Shot clock 5. Nesterovic. And a jump hook. Jackson. Spurs on a 7-0 run. San Antonio by 2.
Tirico in our Times Square studio, a Gatorade X Factor studio updates. Kind of put the pieces together. NBA announced earlier today that there'll be a press conference tomorrow to announce the MVP, or the announcement of the award, I should say. And the Associated Press in Minnesota says Kevin Garnett, who had the most points and rebounds in the league, will be named MVP tomorrow. Al.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Of course, Tim Duncan is no stranger to that award.
Yeah, last 2 years. You know, well deserved by Kevin Garnett. He's had an amazing year. The Timberwolves, for the first time in the franchise history, gets out of the first round. Great award, great accomplishment for Garnett.
The Timberwolves will meet Sacramento. And then the winner of that series meets the winner of this one for the Western Conference Championship. Tony Parker comes back into the game. Malone throws it underneath to O'Neal, and Shaq goes down after he gets hit by Nesterovic. Now for the Lakers, Gary Payton is in the game here in the fourth quarter, and of course that's a bit of news in as much as he didn't play in games 2 and 3 in the fourth quarter in the Houston series. Game 4, he played 5 minutes of the fourth quarter with Fisher seeing most of the action, and all of overtime. Game 5 was a blowout. So Phil Jackson going back to keeping Gary in the game, at least against the Spurs here in game 1.
But the difference is he's keeping Derek Fisher in the game also. And this is what they came on in the 3rd or 4th game in the Rocket series. And I think they really like this lineup with all 3 guys, Kobe, Fisher, and Payton on the floor at the same time.
Meanwhile, Payton today is 1 out of 8 from the field. Gary has 2 points in 31 minutes. Bryant guarding Duncan. And Kobe putting enough pressure on it that the ball goes out of bounds and off San Antonio. Duncan pleading his case to all 3 officials.
Tony Bellis is saying that, yeah, the ball was close, but it went through Nesterovic's leg, and I'm not sure. You know what? That's a great call. I mean, it's no way I would have called it that way, but it was the right call.
Off the hair on his leg. Payton. O'Neal tried to get underneath. Pass not thrown with much art, and Nesterovic takes that one and jams it home to make it 73-69.
And that play was called because after the play, Shaquille O'Neal was looking at Dick Bavetta for the call while his man was running down the middle of the floor.
Kobe. Didn't get his own rebound.
It's going to happen again because this time Kobe's not running the floor.
Kobe's still in the backcourt. And Parker puts one up and misses. And Ginobili gets the rebound.
But that's because, again, now the second time, Kobe was disappointed in the call, and he didn't run the floor.
And Kobe joined with Bavetta, and of course with Kobe, he already has a technical foul. And Malone is there for the foul. Back to that pass by Ginobili, threading the needle.
You can see that's Shaq's guy running straight down the middle of the floor, and Shaq was complaining to the refs right here. But look at it. You can see right over the shoulders, and no one helped out Shaquille O'Neal on the play. When a player doesn't come down, someone still has to help.
Parker missing. Meanwhile, the non-shooting foul was on Malone, his 3rd. O'Neal has 4. Payton has 3. Nesterovic, the only Spur with 4.
2 deep.
And O'Neal.
2 deep. Nesterovic got caught in transition. He originally was fronting and then tried to fight around Shaquille O'Neal to come to the back. When you let Shaquille O'Neal catch it in the paint, and again, when Shaq goes quick, unguardable.
Foul on Duncan, that's Tim's 3rd. Kevin George is going to come back in the game, and Gary Payton goes to the bench for LA.
I think Phil Jackson is looking at the lineup, and though he likes when the two guards or point guards are in, the Spurs are getting the long rebound because of size with Ginobili and Bruce Bowen.
Shaq missing again. He's 2 out of 11 from the free throw line. Parker. One-man show, and then he dishes it off and loses the ball.
Yeah, he had the layup. Should have gone ahead and shot that one.
Halfway mark, fourth quarter now. 2-point game. This is trying to get it to O'Neal, but has it taken away.
Ginobili made that play.
And Parker dishes it outside, going deadly from there, but not here.
This is Spurs pace right now. This is the pace the Spurs want to play at right now.
Racehorse basketball as Bryant lost it, and then Ginobili goes all the way and makes it a 4-point game. A bunch of white shirts, and the ball winds up on the end line out of bounds. San Antonio has the ball. They have the lead. 75-71 Spurs.
The NBA playoffs on ABC, brought to you by The Day After Tomorrow. When it's all on the line, play like there's no tomorrow.
Well, there is a tomorrow, and on TNT tomorrow, the Eastern Conference semis start. Nets, Pistons from Auburn Hills, and then on Tuesday, doubleheader, New Orleans and Miami in the concluding game, Game 7 of that series. Sacramento, Minnesota, late, and then we will be in Los Angeles a week from today, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific time. That'll be Game 3, the Spurs against the Lakers. You know, Doc, we talked before about the Lakers flying home after the game and then coming back. Just in talking to a couple of the players, but the reaction was a little mixed whether they should stay or go.
No doubt.
If they lose this game, that's going to be a lot longer trip back and forth than if they win this game.
Yeah, it's a long trip when you lose. There's no doubt about that. You know, we talked about fast break points right now. It's 15-3 Spurs, and that's exactly what Popovich said they needed to do, is score in transition.
Duncan. Over O'Neal. 6-point San Antonio lead with 4:40 to play. .26 points for Tim Duncan today. Six on the clock. Bryant's going to have to heave up about a 30-footer.
Yeah, that's not Laker basketball. You know, when they're dribbling around looking for shots, that is exactly what the Spurs want, and it's not triangle basketball ball movement. You can see that from right when they came down the court, that again, the Spurs defense had taken the Lakers out of sync.
Duncan over Malone. Game of spurts. Lakers started out hot. Spurs caught them quickly. Led by 8 at the half. Lakers red hot in the third. And then San Antonio's overcome that as a foul is called underneath when Shaq got the ball.
See, now it was Parker's show in the third quarter. It's Tim Duncan's show in the fourth quarter. Both players are playing great for the Spurs, giving them exactly what they need. I mean, Tim Duncan is taking the game over at this point. Someone on the Lakers have to get involved offensively. Right now, it's no one, really. They're out of sync offensively again.
Nesterovic picked up his 5th foul. Duncan has 10 in the period, 28 in the game. The Lakers.
Offensive foul, and I actually thought this was a good call. Ginobili is one of the better floppers in the game, a lot like Derek Fisher, but I think you have to call that one.
Spurs hot over the last 7 minutes. Duncan has it swatted away, but the Spurs keep it, and Ginobili with a little fadeaway that doesn't go. Ticking down to 3 minutes. O'Neal losing it. Duncan reached in, might have gotten a piece of it.
That is 18 turnovers for the Los Angeles Lakers in this game. The Spurs are getting all the hustle points right now.
Parker emphatically telling Duncan to come out to set a pick and then gets it back to him. I'll tell you, Tony Parker's not even at 22. You see him emphatically telling Duncan, get over here, sets the pick, gives it to him, gets it back, gives it to him again. Score.
Verbally taking over this team. Tony Parker last year didn't talk a lot. Now he's instructing guys, telling them what he wants. And his play right here sets up this shot for Tim Duncan. That is Tony Parker taking charge of his team.
Doc, the Lakers were red hot in the third quarter, took the lead. Kobe came out and scored 2 quick baskets here in the fourth period. Over the last 8 minutes and 22 seconds, the Lakers have 2 points on Neil Duncan.
And it's basically the trademark Spurs defense. They've done terrific on taking things away from Kobe and still denying Shaq his catches. But more importantly, before the game, we said this game and this series is going to come down to the good players, the great players on this team. And you look at Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. Tony Parker is not considered a star yet, but he is proving himself to be one in this game and in this season.
In his 3rd year in the league, still 21 years old, and what a brilliant sequence that was on that last basket. Lakers down by 10, and from the outside, Fisher missing. Ginobili gets the rebound. Second game in this series, Wednesday here. Game 3 next Sunday, LA. Game 4 a week from Tuesday, LA. Ginobili for 3. That could have put the finishing touch on it.
Yeah, it really could have. And again, that whole play was set up by Tony Parker.
Bryant. Would have been a 3. Payton gets the rebound. Gets tripled, loses the ball. Ginobili is free. And that should be the ceiling.
Yeah. San Antonio defense has taken over this game. The Spurs struggled in the third quarter defensively, and whatever adjustment that Phil Jackson made to start the third quarter, Greg Popovich made his own in the fourth quarter.
He counted, and that's 10 Laker turnovers here in the fourth period.
And visually, what you see, without going through all the numbers and all that, it just looks like in the fourth quarter, the Spurs played hard. If you had to point to one thing, all the loose balls, all the energy plays, forcing turnovers, all went to one side, and that's the Spurs side. And the speed of Tony Parker has become a huge factor in this series. So you have Shaq's size, Parker's speed, and they, in a lot of ways, are canceling each other out.
Shaq now 3 of 13 from the line. Most turnovers the Lakers have had in a playoff game in a quarter under Phil Jackson. Corey misses.
See, another hustle play. Ginobili in the right spot, throwing the ball up for Gary Payton. All of the hustle plays down the stretch have happened by one team, and that's San Antonio.
The hallmark of the Lakers this season, with 70 seconds to play, has been inconsistency. A lot of it, of course, forced by the injuries. Malone gone half the year. Bowen scores. An inconsistency is summed up today by 32 points in the third quarter and 7 in the fourth. And the crowd's celebrating, and the Lakers will go to the airport, fly home, practice tomorrow and Tuesday, come back here Tuesday night, play Wednesday, and then go back for games 3 and 4.
You know, in a funny way, I've always thought in the playoff series, you know, when you lose a game, it's not a bad idea to stay on the road because it forces you as a team to be together. Instead of now, you lose this game, you get in the airplane, and you go back home, and the peripheral opponent, you know, the people outside of the game have an effect on you.
At least there's a big high-pressure system between here and L.A. I've already checked it out. Good weather, no turbulence. Parker sits down. Ginobili comes out of the game. Duncan has already gotten his big hand. Kobe Bryant with 31 points now. So Shaq is done for the day. O'Neal winds up playing 43 minutes. He has 19 points, 8 of 14. That's about par for him from the field, and 3 of 13. Which, to the consternation of the Lakers, has become about par for him in postseason.
Yeah, but I think in this series, Shaq has to be more dominant. I think they have to go to Shaq more, number one. But I think he has to be more dominant. You don't have Yao Ming guarding you. They're not double-teaming you a lot. They did front and deny to catch a ton and did a great job of that. Because Kobe Bryant, with this Spurs defense, even though he had a great game, will struggle some in this series. And they're going to need Shaq to come up big. The guy they need, though, offensively, the Lakers do, is Gary Payton. This is a series that I think Gary Payton is going to really have to come through offensively for the Lakers to win this series.
Harden makes it. And Doc, to that point, Gary today played 37 minutes, had 4 points. He was 1 of 8 from the field.
Yeah, and I think he has to find a way to get himself involved, which has been very difficult. It's not all Payton's fault. You know, he has not been used a lot offensively, not used to going to the post, which is really his strength. So I think you'll see that adjustment in game 2.
Malone made the last basket. And the foul here in backcourt as Brown goes down. Foul on Wolf. World News tonight, or your local news coming up, except on the West Coast. Last year, these two teams met in the same round, the second round. San Antonio won 4 games to 2. Lakers went out. Phil Jackson, Mitch Kupchak had to revamp the team, bring in Malone, bring in Payton. Make a couple of other moves along the way. San Antonio, of course, as we detailed before, amazingly enough, half the roster turned over, including the retirement of David Robinson. And here they are again going head-to-head, and San Antonio is going to draw first blood.
You know, it's funny. You look at San Antonio, and they've made all these changes, yet they're playing the exact same way. You look at the Lakers, they made all the changes, and they have struggled running their offense.
You know, now I know why Danny Ainge had you #1 on the list. That is perfect analysis. There is the retired Admiral.
Yes. I think he can still play. I really do.
I wonder how he feels about that right now.
I would think he would love to be in this series.
He's dreaming about Kona.
Ain't all bad.
We'll be back to wrap it up after Game 1. San Antonio, 88-78. Game 1, the Spurs win at 88-78. Talk to you next Sunday from Los Angeles. Game 3. Until then, Al Michaels, Doc Rivers, Michelle Tafoya saying so long from San Antonio. This is ABC Sports, home of the NBA Finals.